sizzling steak straight off the barbecue. Is there anything better? If you aren't cooking your steaks like this, well, that should be illegal. Oh. Let's get into it. Today we're going to reverse sear some steak. Cooking time for this recipe will be around an hour. Or for those of you who love to follow my beer timer, you're looking at a 2-beer cook. Cheers. Beer and steak. Does it get any better? Enter competitor number 1. This grass-fed ribeye steak weighing in at 600 grams and cutting a desirable figure of 4 centimeters thick. Now let's break this steak down. This outer muscle is called the spinalis and it is tender and super beefy. This circular part is the eye or ribeye, and this hard long part is the bone. And as always, I picked this up from Mick out at Gippsland Premium Meats. Did you know the ribeye steak is called a Scotch here in Australia? Now you do. How to prep the steak ready for the grill. Gloving up is optional. Throw it on a wire rack. Make sure there is a tray underneath. Then coat the entire steak with a high smoke point oil. I'm using rice bran today. It feels so luxurious between my fingers. And next up, we're going to hit that with the holy trinity of rubs, SPG, or salt, pepper, garlic. Sergeant seasoning on board for action. Enemy acquired, preparing to assault. Enemy advancing, reloading with pepper. They just won't stop, reloading with garlic. Now this just needs to be placed aside for at least an hour to allow the salt to activate and do its job. And for anyone wondering, my SPG mixture is 1/3 of everything. 1/3 salt, 1/3 black pepper, and 1/3 garlic granules. The whole process from salting to reabsorption takes around 45 minutes. And you want that steak to draw that moisture back in from the salt before you cook it, otherwise your steak might be dried out. Today I'm using a 57 centimeter Weber kettle and I'm pairing it up with a kettle cone and some coconut briquettes from Heat Beads, as I want to set up a dual zone cooking area in my Weber, starting with an indirect heat source of 150 degrees Celsius. And how I'll do this is by half filling a chimney starter with unlit briquettes. I'll light them up, and once they're ashed over, I'll place them on one side of the charcoal grate. I'll add a drip tray, and don't forget to carefully put the grill back in place. I'll then put the lid on, making sure all the vents are wide open, and I'll give that grill 10 minutes to warm up. We'll use the kettle cone at the end of the cook. Be patient. Now, once the grill has had time to warm up, I'll insert a meat probe into the thickest part of the steak, then place the steak on the opposite side of the lit fuel with the bone facing that heat source. I'll set the internal temp probe to 45 degrees Celsius, and I'm also going to put on 1 chunk of cherry wood directly on the coals. I'll put the lid back on, making sure that lid vent is directly over our food. Why? Because that way we're drawing the heat and the smoke over that steak. Why did I face the bone towards the heat? Because everyone knows your bone will shrink if it's treated to cold. When the steak's internal temp reaches 42 degrees Celsius, we need to half fill the chimney starter again with more coconut briquettes and light them up, because we're closing in on the searing part of this cook and we need a lot more heat. Coconut briquettes give off a lot more heat than standard briquettes, but they do die off a lot quicker, making them the perfect heat source for searing steaks. The steak has hit 45 degrees Celsius internally, and I missed it because I was off doing other stuff. It's now at 47, so let's get it off the heat. We can take the probe out, we don't need that anymore. Oh, and it's already looking magnificent, but we're not done with that yet. Onto some foil and wrap it up. And I'm gonna let this rest for 6 minutes. And you might be asking yourself, why 6 minutes? Because it is recommended to allow meat to rest for 1 minute per every 100 grams. And since this was a 600 gram steak, 6 minutes. Did you notice when I flipped the steak? That's right, I didn't, because it's not necessary. The extra briquettes we lit up are nearly ready to go. So what we can do is move the existing briquettes into the center of the grill, then add the kettle cone over the top of them. And then you're going to use the ash sweeper to clear away the old ash, because you want as much oxygen to this fuel as possible. And then dump in the extra fuel. And carefully put your grill back in. And leave the lid off and get ready to sear some steak. We'll place the steak directly over the kettle cone and we're going to leave it there for 2 minutes. And then after 2 minutes, we can flip it over. Look at that. And we are aiming for a temp internally of 54 degrees Celsius. And we'll know this by using an instant read thermometer. How done you want your steak is a personal preference. Don't let what others want sway how you like your steak. And the steak is done, so we can remove that glorious piece of meat from the heat.
Nice.
Now we can slice straight into it because we've already rested this steak. Removing it from the bone first, and then we can just start slicing it. How good does that look? And now we can just wait for the meat to bloom. By cooking the steak like this to a specific temp, we're ensuring that we don't overcook it and dry it out, and it stays moist, smut, and steak. The perfect combo. He's right, you know. The only thing left to do is eat it. Ooh.